Madam Chair, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ajax Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. This meeting is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. All staff and committee members are participating by phone or video. All regular practices and procedures for the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter a technical difficulty, we may take a brief recess while it is resolved. Thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with the meeting. Are there any conflicts of interest from committee members with any items to be discussed this evening? Seeing none, thank you. And if we can look for adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting dated November 3rd, 2021, do we have a motion to adopt?
We'll move to accept the minutes of November 3rd, 2021 as posted, barring any errors or omissions.
Okay, do we have a seconder? That was Stephen. Seconder? Jeff. I saw Jeff. Okay. All in favor? Anderson and Paul?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's carried. So moving on to the presentation discussion items. First is 4.1 Heritage Permit Updates 103 Old Kingston Road. My screen just did something.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mike.
There we go.
All right, so I have a few items tonight. These will be relatively quick ones. They're all updates. So first item is an update on 103 Old Kingston Road, which is the Gordon House. So this is a building we all know and love. It's been subject to a number of updates over the last few meetings. And this will really be almost a show and tell with photos, just kind of giving you an overview of the masonry work that's been done on the site. So the photo here was taken back in September, showing the condition of the building at that time. This is what the building looks like now. So I'll get into a little bit of detail as to the work that has been done, and I'll have some more detailed photos so we can look a little more closely at some of this work. But what you will notice is work has been done up to the top of the second story windows. From there up to the very top of the building is for a future phase of work. So that's to come hopefully next year or maybe the following year. So this image here just shows a little more closely that transition. Everything below that blue dotted line is the area that's been entirely repointed. The bricks have been tinted all to match one another, and they've applied that sort of imitation tuck pointing. Everything above is as it was prior to the restoration work, except for the buff brick in the arches. That you can see has already been tinted, and that's just something they decided to do when they had the scaffolding all set up. So I was on site last Wednesday as they were wrapping up the project. This needed to be completed by the end of November, so it came right down to the wire. But last Wednesday, I got a little insight into how they actually achieve the sort of visual presentation that you see with this tuck pointing. So as I'd mentioned at previous meetings, they have a special tool that they just pull along the mortar joints and it leaves a raised bead. But that bead is of course the same color as the rest of the joint. So they had people go and hand paint each of the raised ribbons right across the building to give it that, really make those bricks pop and make them look like very, defined edges. Due to the emergency repairs that were done. So there were a number of bricks that were cracked, and in some cases that were leaning or almost tipping right out of the wall. So those were removed by the mason. And there are still some gaps right now. I spoke with the mason today, and he's agreed to go out and temporarily cover these just so we don't get moisture in there during the winter, leading to any further disrepair of the wall. So now it's sort of show and tell time. I'm just going to flash a bunch of images pre-restoration and post-restoration so you can see exactly what this work looks like, and then I'll open it up to any questions that people may have. So this was the northeast corner, which I think was very much, demonstrates the condition of most of the bottom of the building wall. You had spalling bricks, you had mortar joints that had been completely eroded, and most of this brick wasn't in a condition to be salvaged, so it was removed entirely and replaced with new brick. And what we have now is this. So a very, very solid looking wall. You can see that the mortar joints, other than the white raised portion, are a fairly close match in color to the brick. So when you're up close, you can definitely see what's brick and what's mortar. But when you do step further away, that becomes a little harder to distinguish. You can also see the nice sort of straight lines on the plinth bricks down near the base of the building. So obviously, major improvement along the bottom. Through the middle of the building, there was quite a few areas where there had been numerous repairs in the past. And unfortunately, a lot of those repairs were fairly poorly done. You had numerous types of mortar, some really, really thick mortar joints like you see in here, just not top quality work, and really sort of left almost stains on the building. So what we have now is very cohesive design. You'll notice that the bricks are a darker color, and I mentioned that in the previous update that this was the way to sort of bring back that uniformity to the building. Over time, this should sort of dissipate, so you start to get a little more variation amongst the individual brick units. But this treatment really gives it that cohesive kind of appearance where everything matches. And now you can really see the different types of brickwork in the facade, which is nice to showcase. We also had numerous areas of efflorescence, which is when the minerals within the brick come to the outside and cause that white staining. So this has obviously all been removed and all been repaired, and now you have solid brick wall that will be treated with some type of a sealant. It's not a complete water barrier, so you do still have moisture movement in and out of the bricks, but the sealant will help to prevent a lot of water infiltration into the wall. This is the before of the sawtooth pattern, just below one of the first story windows and above the basement window arch. You can see on the left side, the points of those bricks weren't even visible anymore. They had spalled to such a state of decay. Whereas now you have perfect edges on all of those bricks and restored sawtooth pattern there. And then the last update here is just there were a number of places where we had bricks about to fall right from the arches. There were also areas where mortar had been applied as almost a Band-Aid solution here just to keep individual units from falling out. All of this has now been fixed, and we're no longer at risk of any of these just dropping at any time. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that the committee may have. And Pam, if you don't mind, if you're able to see hands, if you could just call on people, please.
Sure. Any questions? Neil?
Yeah, Mike, that top level, has that been totally stabilized now? So there's no danger of any masonry falling from pre-store or just general spalling?
Yeah, so the really dangerous units, like the units that were loose and cracked, have been removed. But in terms of general stabilization, no, because that'll be the next phase of the project. So the intention is when they get around to that, they're likely going to have to take that apart brick by brick and reassemble it with new brick. So they've done sort of the bare minimum in terms of, keeping things safe for the next year or two.
Yeah, that last statement was what I needed to get information on. Those doors, the doors and the trim, that seems pretty tatty, compared to the new brickwork. Is that another phase as well?
That's hopefully another phase. So we focused on the brick because the brick really was it was the biggest job, but also it was kind of the priority. So our focus has been the brick, but this company, they actually work very closely with a heritage carpenter that can do all kinds of window repairs and new doors. And I think there has been discussion between the building owner and the restoration company to look at that as a future project. So it is something that will be addressed in the near future, I hope.
That's great. I mean, what they've done is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's from a distance. I mean, it's like a whole new building, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, do we want to move to 4.2?
Sure.
Permit updates, 59 Old Kingston Road.
All right. So this is another quick update on a property that received a grant as well through the Pickering Village CIP program. So 59 Kingston, as we discussed at the last meeting, is the Pickering Village Pharmacy. It's not too easy to see in this image, but this property has been suffering for a number of years. It was in quite rough shape. So this is one that I've been hoping to work with the property owner for some time. And thankfully, he came forward this year interested in a grant. So we were able to accommodate that. So this is the before on the front facade. Again, at this distance, you can't really see too clearly the improvements that have been made. But hopefully you'll see a little better with some of the before and afters I have to show here. So this was the east wall, which you really have a clear view of from Old Kingston Road, and really, didn't present the building that well when you saw all the peeling paint. This is what it looks like now. So they did a great job at keeping a lot of the existing wood. Some of it, like near the lower levels, had to be removed entirely, but it was matched closely to what was there before, and then all repainted. So you have a wall that's essentially good as new. This is another view of that same wall, just looking upward, showing the condition of some of the boards and the paint. And then this is what we have now. So an obvious improvement there. One of the downfalls of using these highlighting colors and trim colors that are a little darker or different than white is that they really show the nicks over time. So you can see this entrance has had a lot of use with customers coming and going, and that really started to show. This is what it looks like now. So just presents much, much better to people walking along the street and walking into the building. And lastly, probably the most important improvement that they made here related to the roofing. Part of the building has a flat roof and it was starting to sag. Water was pooling in the middle and it had nowhere to go but through the roof. So that was obviously causing damage to the interior and something that had to be addressed. This was the condition of the roof. You can see all kinds of plants growing off of some of the wood that had been laid down there. And then this is what's there now. And this is kind of interesting because with roofing, obviously, the most important thing is creating a waterproof membrane for the building. It's not necessarily so much about maintaining heritage materials, especially when it's a portion of the roof that can't be seen from the street or any passersby. So there wasn't too much concern in this area with using materials that would have been used in the past because it's really not visible to anybody except those that are in the little office area on the second floor of this building. So any questions about that one?
Any questions? Seeing none, 4.3 here, permit updates, 2 Old Kingston Road.
All right, so moving right along. This is the site of the Pickering Village mural project, which we've discussed both at the September meeting and then at the November meeting as well, with the final candidate for the site being the old Dunbar store at 2 Old Kingston Road, and this being the chosen building wall. So we were involved in the project very early, giving sort of a high level approval to move forward with the project. But it wasn't until the very late stages where I was able to provide an update on the actual design and get feedback from the committee on that. So in that week or so, we ended up seeing a number of iterations of the design. Started with the one at the top as being option 1, and then option 2 being the one in the middle. And from all the feedback I received from the committee, it seemed like everybody, including myself, was in favor of option 1 because that red really helped to make the font pop there and sort of draw the eye. Now, we were told that because of the location of some of the outlets on the wall, they weren't able to do the top design. So they said they do a variation of the second one, which you see as the bottom image there. So that's actually a rendering that was provided to us very, very late in the game, I'd say, I think a day before they planned to get started on the project. And I'd say it was a big improvement over the other version in the middle that had a sign. Kind of, worked a lot better with the space and was able to accommodate some of the vents and that sort of thing on the building wall. In the end, the design was a little different than what was presented to us, but I think that is something that works quite well because it did end up being closer to the first design that we all liked. So just a reminder of what the old building wall looked like. And I'm not sure how many of you have been by the site and have seen it already. It may not be a big reveal for many, but for those that haven't seen the site, I was out there this morning and this is what we have now. So in terms of the presentation that was given to us and the images we were expecting, the background is, exactly what we were told it would be. The reference to Pickering Village is a little bit different. It's most closely resembles, I think, that first option that we saw, but it is even a little different from that one. But it's getting a lot of interest, a lot of comments so far. There are a couple things to note here. One is, I mentioned previously, the reference to the Crane Clan and the hope to fit a crane into the mural design in the sky. And that appeared on the first image, or actually all three of the images here. You can see the crane above the reference to Pickering Village. It is not on there right now. So I followed up with Recreation to find out if that's something that they just hadn't gotten to, or if it had been removed from the plans. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but I will provide an update when I receive that information. I also mentioned at the last meeting that the heritage plaque or the historic plaque over in this area would remain on the building because that was originally the plan. It was then determined that that would be removed, and town staff have now been discussing, rather than putting it on the building and covering part of the mural, putting it on a post somewhere on the grassed area in front of the mural, and having that appear beside what will be a bit of a storyboard, which will tell the story of this mural, give passersby a little insight into what it means, what some of the sort of iconic elements like the salmon and that sort of thing mean, and what the story it tells. So the plaque is unlikely to go back on the building wall, but it will remain in this area. So that's all planned to move forward in the early new year. I imagine that when the storyboard is being worked on, the committee will have an opportunity to provide some commentary on that. The last item to mention on this one is that there will be an official unveiling, even though it's pretty much unveiled to everyone already. We will be having a formal event to showcase the mural and to thank everybody involved. That will be on Thursday, December the 16th at 10 a.m. So all committee members will be invited to that event. If you're available, it would be great to have you out. There will be a portion on site here in front of the mural with I'd say most of the event actually happening just down the street at St. Francis. So if the weather's not great, most of the event will be indoors anyway.
So, Questions? Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mike. Listen, I had sent out an email just because I thought I didn't want people driving through Kingston Road misinterpreting that they're suddenly in Pickering. From that, I remember I had sent an email request just asking a question about that, and I did reply a very detailed and lengthy email from Robert Gruber. Mike, can you elaborate on what he said that is going to differentiate people from knowing that they're still in Ajax?
Well, so I thought your comments were important ones because you know, there always has been confusion with Ajax and Pickering, given we have Pickering Village, we also have Pickering High School, we have Pickering Beach. We have a lot of things that used to be in the township of Pickering, but are now in Ajax. So your original request to add something to, you know, more clearly define this as being within Ajax is something I put forward to Robert Gruber and the team of artists working on this. My suggestion was just to have a small reference under Pickering Village that said Ajax, Ontario, beneath there. When Robert spoke to the artists, they said, you know, given all the work that had been done on the layout and how close the bottom of that village lettering was to the ground, they weren't able to accommodate that request. So what we see up there is essentially the final product, other than that crane, as I mentioned. I'm unsure if that's going to be added. So in terms of making a clear differentiation between Pickering and Ajax, it won't be on the mural, but that'll be part of the story that's told on the storyboard as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got that, but it won't be able to tell, you know, we will know as residents, right? With people driving through, it can be misleading. Anyways, the artists are always right. So, you know, but we know it would have been nice seeing Ajax on there. And but on a positive note, council, like the Ward 1 councilors, Marilyn and Rob, they absolutely love it, and they've got really good reviews from the members and the residents of Pickering Village, the business owners. They absolutely love it, and I went by twice today. It really looks good. So fantastic job overall, guys. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mike.
Any other questions? Paul, were you trying to ask a question?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. 4.4 heritage permit updates, 244 Kingston Road.
All right, so another update here on the McKay House, which is at 244 Kingston, which is part of the complex with the Canadian Tire and the Home Depot and all of those stores. So this is the house that I think most people are likely, or former house, I should say, that most people are likely familiar with. So a while back, I think it was probably in March or April, I brought a heritage permit application to the committee to look at signage for an Indian restaurant that will be going into this building. So at the end of April, I issued approval. The approval was for 2 circular barnboard signs, 1 on each gable end. The original application had an 8-foot diameter sign on the west side, which is the Salem side, and then a 6-foot diameter sign on the east wall. In my review, I thought that the 8-foot sign did look a little too large. It looked somewhat out of place compared to the 6-foot sign. So in the end, in talking with the applicants and them being, you know, open to the suggestion of resizing the signs, we decided to approve signs on both walls that would be 6 feet in diameter. So this is their original proposal showing the east side, and then I was out there today taking photos, and this is what it looks like. So an obvious match there. On the west side, this was the original proposal with the 8-foot sign that I thought looked a little too large for the building wall. Out there today, and I see that the 8-foot sign was installed rather than the 6-foot sign. So that's a bit of an issue. I'm not sure how big of an issue it is, and that's something I'll sort of bring up to the committee and get your feedback on that. But before getting anyone's opinions, I just want to talk about another part of their project, which is a bit of a good news story, which was my original intention to focus on through tonight's presentation here. So due to the building code, essentially, they had to make some changes to the front door. So currently they had a front door which swung inwards. It wasn't a historic door, it was a modern door. It kind of looked the part of a historic door, but it wasn't very convincing. So it swung inwards. They were told they needed a door that swung outwards to meet the occupancy load for the building, which is now going to be over 100 people. It was determined that it wasn't a quick and easy fix, just redoing the hinge and having the door swing the other way. So they determined that they were going to get a whole new front door assembly. And we're looking to myself for some advice on the kind of things we'd be looking for. So what I did say to them is that we had a very similar application just a couple of years ago for the property at 22 Linton Avenue, which is of the same era and an overall similar type of building. I said the door that we approved there would be a reasonable door for you to install here. So they actually agreed to go ahead and get a quote for that new door. So they'll be installing a new door. These images are a little wonky because there was construction materials piled outside the building, so I couldn't get a straight on view. But I did get a couple photos here of what the door actually looks like. So I mean, it's very nondescript. It's just kind of a door. Nothing that special. Doesn't really match the architecture of the building very well. It does in terms of its proportions with the transom and the side lights. But the material itself, is just kind of, it's fairly basic. So what they've agreed to do is to move forward with something that looks like this. The proportions will obviously be a little different because it will be sized to meet the opening that exists, but it will be sort of an authentic style door for this style of building. So this was one of those things where at the beginning of this project, there was no intention in replacing the doors. So this is, I think, a good news story for us in terms of getting an improved door there. So with all that information, I wanted to get feedback from the members about the sign. And maybe I'll flip back to that image I took today. I do think that the sign is a little too large. It's a little more prominent than I would want it to be, but I don't feel like it heavily detracts from the building. It could be a fairly substantial expense to make the proponents go back and get a new sign made to the proper dimensions. And as we saw with the sign on the other side, it's a 2-foot difference. So in my eyes, not ideal what we have here, but not the end of the world. And I feel like it's something I could personally live with, but because this didn't follow the direction of the heritage permit approval, I did want to open it up to the committee to get some feedback from the members and just, get a sense of what everyone thinks.
Anybody like Councillor Khan? And then Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sawchuk, what was their reason for not abiding with your original request for size?
I do not know because I just realized this today when I was out at the site. So I haven't had the opportunity to reconnect with them. My guess is they did have shop drawings from the sign producer originally that sized them this way. And my expectation is that when they gave the shop the go-ahead to make the signs, they just didn't clarify that they were both supposed to be 6 foot rather than the original design, which one was 8 foot. So it could have been a miscommunication. I'm not entirely sure at this point.
It's kind of puzzling because that's my business too, and there's significant savings in reducing it for the the store owner for making it 2 feet smaller. So it's kind of puzzling. You're right. It's not the end of the world. It looks great. The only concern, well, it's two-sided sword, because we want to make sure that it's not a precedence being set that people think they can they can sidestep your request and your rules, right? And at the same time, we try to embrace new businesses in the town of Ajax, and we don't want people to feel that there's so much red tape that we're dissuading them from opening. So it's a two-sided thing, but I know it's in good hands, in your capable hands, and with this very intelligent committee. So, but that's my 2 cents, right? We don't want it to be a precedent that people know they can sidestep what the rules are, and then we don't want to make it hard for business owners to open. And I don't know, they lost money doing this, so there must be a really good reason for that. But anyways,
Yeah.
thank you.
And sort of layered into my thought process here is some of the members will remember the early discussions we had about the ventilation system for this building. And they were being told by the town's fire department that they needed to build a permanent ramp or a permanent flat surface on the roof in order to inspect the vents. And obviously that I recognize that was something under the fire code, so it would be very difficult to get around. But this, the building tenants really didn't want to detract from the overall look of the building. So at their expense, they decided to implement a solution that would actually be housed in the attic of the restaurant. So they went way out of their way just to ensure that, the building looked the part of a heritage building. And that, in my opinion, deserves a lot of credit. So with something like the sign, I think your point about a precedent is a good one, and it's something we have to be aware of. But considering everything else they've done, I'm willing to let this one slide.
They're team players. That deserves some forgiveness if you explain it that way.
Absolutely.
Oh, one last thing, Mike, is this building accessible for wheelchairs and on our residents can roll up in there with a? I don't see any ramps from
Other
this
side.
end.
Yeah, so
Oh, there
there's
you
a ramp
go.
here.
Come
Yeah.
on, let them go. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. All right. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me speak.
Jeff,
I agree with Mike here. The sign is not unpleasant to look at. It could have been wretched. There could have been spotlights on it. It could have been a flashing electric sign. Of course, I'm sure you wouldn't let that happen, but there was potential for that. So it's not unpleasant to look at, but if there's one thing that stands out on this particular building is all the air handling equipment you see at the bottom of the picture. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of AC equipment, which is, I guess it'll be screened by greenery eventually, but that, for me, that really stood out. Not the sign, but all the air handling stuff around the base of the building.
So it is not yet installed. So
Okay, yep.
those are just kind of sitting there waiting to be installed. They will generally be in the positions you see them, like over in this corner here, I guess the northwest corner. There will be a number of units there. The idea is to screen them, as you've said.
Yep.
And that was, I think, the first item we brought to the committee, was the approval on some of this. But at this point, like you see this big open looking box here, that's because they're still working on it all.
Okay, thank you.
any other, Beverly? Okay, I see. you.
Okay, hello there. Personally, I kind of like the sign this big on this side of the road or this side of the building. Because if you're, say, going south on Salem, 4 lanes away in the early evening and without lights, you would probably see this a little bit better than you would the 6-foot sign from the parking lot, which of course you really wouldn't need to see to get into this place. So I really don't think it takes away from it at all. But I kind of like it a little bit bigger for you to see it from the road.
And that was the original intention with doing the bigger one on this side, was just so it'll be a little more visible from Salem. So
Yeah.
yep, they're achieving, I guess, what they set out to do originally.
Stephen?
I like the sign as it is, the larger sign too. I guess it must be a little bit of the senior people in us all, our poor eyesight and things, but that helps. And I don't think you can really go after the builder or the owners for it. as long as they put the proper front door in.
There you go.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I do have a quick question if no other
Sure.
committee members have one. Through you to Mike, appreciate your comments, Councillor Khan, with your former accessibility hat on. Do you know, Mike, if the new door assembly will have a power door operator for accessibility?
That is something I can look into. I know, I believe that was part of the discussion with building code. I know there is, I can't remember the technical language, but some sort of an emergency push from the inside. And I
Yeah.
think there was discussion about it being electronic. So I can follow up with the proponent and then I can provide that information to the committee.
Sorry,
would
what,
be great.
Ms. Moore, what was the question? I was busy gloating over your compliment. I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat the question, please?
From an accessibility perspective, it's great to have the barrier-free path of travel to enter into the restaurant, but just wanted to confirm with the new door assembly being installed, if there would be an automated door opener included with that.
Anyway, I would just like to add ask a question. Is there a plan for outdoor dining?
There is, yes. So there's a plan for a patio on the north side of the building.
Okay,
So there's an area now that already has like a concrete sort of walkway. The intention is, I'm trying to remember their site plan. I think it looked like around 8 to 10 tables out there on the north side. So yeah, they're going to take full advantage of that space.
okay. And then the other comment I have, the sign, I think the proportions are fine. It's the windows on that side that bother me because they're incorrect. And I wondered if there's any plan for switching those windows out at some point.
Not that I'm aware of. And the unfortunate reality we deal with is all of our funding opportunities for heritage are limited to the village.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
you know, one thing I was pushing for back when I started with the town was a grant program to provide grants to all designated buildings, regardless of where they were. And that's something I haven't had the opportunity to work on. So at this point, like I said, any funding that really could be useful in incentivizing someone to take on a project like that isn't available here. So we just need to kind of wait it out and hope that at some point, those windows are seen as needing upgrades and we'll be able to get involved then. And I should also mention that RioCan, who owns the property, they have been fantastic so far with all of the work that's needed to happen. So something as simple as this door, I saw that as an opportunity to kind of get in there and you know, recommend something that would be quite an upgrade. And they really didn't bat an eye at that. Similar to when they determined they needed to redo the roofing a couple of years ago, they didn't even for a second consider anything other than cedar shakes or cedar shingles, which are a more pricey option than a lot of materials. So they have been quite good in terms of being stewards for the building, and I hope that that'll continue in time when those windows need to be replaced.
Councillor Khan, you had something to add?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yes, Mr. Sawchuk, I was not aware that all our grants are only limited to Pickering Village. I mean, since I've been on this committee, I've seen buildings scattered all over, beautifully all over Ajax, and I know how passionate you are about them. And if this is something that this committee can work towards, I'd be happy to lead that charge along beside you, Mr. Sawchuk, because that grant money needs to be spread evenly around, right? That's Pickering Village is a beautiful part that to be preserved, but come on, we've got all these buildings that needs the grant. And this grant funding, is it government or is this taxpayers' money? Can you elaborate on that?
So the Pickering Village grant is through the Community Improvement Program. So each year we set aside, the town sets aside $75,000.
Taxpayers' money, right?
What's that, sorry?
Is that taxpayers' money?
I'm not entirely sure, but I assume it is. I assume it.
I think that's enough ground that we should, if the committee is interested, if you have the appetite for it, I will stand with you and we will go for it just to have that spread, because it's not fair, obviously, right?
Yeah,
So-
it's unfortunate because there are a lot of great buildings in other parts of the town that we can't provide any financial support to, and yeah, it seems a little funny that it's purely the location that makes one designated
pers-
building eligible and not another.
Yes,
So-
that's not right. So if you would like and you have the appetite for it, Mr. Sawchuk, we can meet offline and we can discuss it and then we can update the committee on where this is entirely if you have the appetite for it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the support, and like I said, this is one of those projects that has been on my work plan for some time, but unfortunately, it's down near the bottom of the work plan, just because there are so many other
I
priorities.
know, I know.
But we will, yeah, I absolutely want to move forward with this at some point.
Let's do it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry to be interrupting so often.
No problem. Bruce, you had a question?
So if you two are trying to spread this for the whole town, does that mean you're going to increase the budget significantly? Or does that mean you're going to take the 75,000 and spread it out the whole town so the people that it was put out for originally will get less?
So no, so the intention would be that the Pickering Village Community Improvement Plan program, the facade restoration program, would remain, but there would be an additional pot of funds available for designated buildings across the town, including Pickering Village. So it actually may provide even further opportunities for buildings in the village. But no, the idea wouldn't be to sort of take from one pot and put it into another. It would be establishing an entirely different fund.
Also,
Thank
if
you-
I may
thank
add,
you for
sorry,
Thank you
Bruce,
for
just
defining
wanted to
that.
add that we do have on staff a grant writer, Cassandra Cusciano, who can, with this platform, she can actually apply for more grants for us to go to this, to add to the pot. Thank you.
Point of clarification, is this building designated?
It is, yes.
All right. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I believe we're at 4.5, which is the Heritage Minute Video Project update. Jeff, are you doing that?
Sure, I'll just unmute myself. Yes, so we've got some great luck with our Heritage Minutes. The current one we're working on is Simcoe Point. We have a rough cut that we'll be sending to people in the next few days, and we'll get, because we're very collaborative, we'll get your information on it, how you like it, what changes you might want to see. And looking forward, we'd love to hear from all you people, future project material. Case in point, the Defense Industry Limited part of our town, maybe Bomb Girls, just to throw a couple things out there. But we're looking for you guys to throw us a couple ideas, and we'll certainly act on them. And the other good thing is that some of the Heritage Minutes are appearing on Rogers TV, on Facebook as well. So it's been a great success, and I'd like to thank staff for all the hard work they put in making that happen, and also for all the voices. Pam's voice, I appeared in the first one just because it was convenient because I was the editor. So eventually, I think everyone's gonna have a shot at being a voice on this thing if you want to be a voice. So something to think about. And it's one other thing I was thinking of is that some of the heritage committees across the land have their own web page with the town. Now I know we're included in the town's offerings, but to perhaps something to think about, somebody is having our own page. If we have enough going on, I'm sure we could fill it with stuff. So I'm just throwing that out as another idea. You know, would you ever want to have your own web page on the town site? That's it from me.
Any questions, comments? Neil?
Well, Jeff just made a good point. Can Mike actually speak to that and his thoughts on it before we close?
Sure, and I may throw to Sarah a little bit because she might have a little information that I don't, but I do remember, actually, before I started working with Ajax, I remember the Ajax Heritage Committee did have their own website. And then my understanding was due to corporate policies, sort of external websites were removed and everything had to be rolled back into the town and the town's website. But Sarah, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Through the chair, you're correct. We usually have not a dedicated external site for any of our town committees. They would be a part of the ajax.ca mega site. And perhaps we could look at creating a web page or maybe expanding on some of the content that currently is present, maybe posting some of the video links on those content pages that currently exist, or even on the committee pages, so that we can build some profile to the committees themselves. Because if you look at it now, it's pretty kind of static, standard, just legislative type of information. So I can take that back, and definitely we could look at that from a staff perspective, maybe engage corporate communications and see what leeway we would have to sort of build out some more content and profile for the committees and all the great work that you do.
It would be a useful template for other committees as well, like the accessibility people. I mean, if it works for us, it'll work for them as well.
Yes. So how it works with the accessibility is they sort of post their content within the pages dedicated to accessibility that currently exist on the site. So I could see a similar opportunity for this committee. We do have pages on the website currently that speak to heritage and history, and perhaps look to expand the content and add some additional links, including to your Heritage Minute videos, and sort of build up the content that's currently there, instead of create an entirely different avenue where we would have to direct traffic to, build on a place that people are already going to get information, and just provide them with additional assets and resources.
Very good.
Any other comments, questions for Jeff? Oh, Neil?
Yeah, sorry, I just needed to continue on that. Just on the Simcoe point, I heard nothing back from Pickering Library. I mean, as I mentioned to you, they have no archivist. My request went into the bureaucracy and never came out again. So what you've got from Ajax is what you've got on the stills.
Very good. We have some wonderful scene setting shots, and it's probably going to be our best looking video yet. So
Wow.
we're just because it's such an outdoor place, you know, and I was able to get down there a couple times in full sunlight and get some great shots, and it really looks like a people place, much less spooky than it used to.
Can I add something? Sarah, there was a picture that was donated to the town, and it was a man, I think it was one of the Green Laws, walking over an ice bridge at the mouth of Duffins Creek. And I know that I'm pretty sure that went into the town archives. Who can we talk to about seeing if somebody could find that picture?
We can definitely connect with Angelica and Susan in our legislative and information services team to see.
Sorry, Neil.
Waving frantically.
I got to interrupt here. I told you that they had done a physical search and a digital search, and they couldn't find any sign of that whatsoever. So there's no going back to them.
Okay, I know that there was a copy that was framed and given to the town, so that's unfortunate. It's going back probably 25 years, but it's unfortunate.
Perhaps have we checked the Our Ontario website? Maybe it was digitized and added to the resources there.
How do we do that?
We can connect offline, but it's the link that the Ajax Public Library has put a lot of the resources into to update a lot of the archival materials. But if you can provide me with some written details of the specific item you're looking for, perhaps I can connect that to the library staff person.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's unfortunate because I know that the unveiling of the plaque that was presented to the town. So, okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Sorry about that, Neil.
All right, it's all right. While we're on number 4, can I make a request of Mike and Sarah in terms of the agenda, that when you put on an address on, say, heritage permit updates, if that address actually has a name, i.e. the Gordon House or the Dunbar House or whatever, you put that in brackets afterwards?
Good idea.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other comments, then we're on to correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
None received, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so update from council, Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Pam. Last Saturday, it's all good news. I only bring good news. I'm like Santa. We did the reverse Santa Claus parade at Picove. It was beautiful. This year, though, because of COVID, we didn't want to, have the interactions of people of people being on the sides of the street and the floats were going through and we're giving candy. So all the floats, including council, we stood out there for 4 hours in the cold, and we had a drive-through. It's called a reverse parade. So it was we had 600 cars signing up for it. So it was very, very successful, and it was very cold, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of lights, a lot of cheer, a lot of good things happening. With that, we have Live with the Mayor. This is December 7th at 7 p.m. at Malpac Industries. It's off of Finley Avenue. This is the first time in a few years we're going to do it live. You can attend live, and also you can visit online, and you can do it online as well. Next thing we have so many great events on ajax.ca. We have the Merry and Bright. It's ongoing until the end of December. It includes the Mayor and Council Toy Drive. There's a self-guided light tour, Duffelback Theater, December 11th. Also on that note, we have our toy and food, our toy drive happening right now. It started November 22nd to December 10th. You can drop off all your food stuff and toys at the town hall, but you can go online and find the other venues you can drop off to. Again, online you can find a New Year's Eve, December 31st, online activities for residents to download and enjoy. And I just want to close with one other, I think it's a good news story. The owner of the Ajax Flea Market, formerly Rona Lansing, they've created a food drive, and he is personally paid for all the food for our vulnerable residents. But the way he's done it, they've put it at the exit door. So if we can get the word out, just to protect your self-respect and not feel like you're looking for a handout or anything, you go into the flea market, and as you walk out, you can take your bags and you can leave. I thought it was the way that we want to move our Ajax forward. It doesn't have to be, a photo op or, everybody, feel like you're getting a handout. It's Christmas time. We want people to come in and help themselves to what they want. It's all pre-packed. So if you can get that word out that there's so much food there to our vulnerable residents, so just go in and walk out. Nobody have to know. You grab your bag and you keep moving. So, or stick around if you want. So I think it's all good news we have, and I'm very proud to be part of this town, to be quite honest. Thank you for indulging in my blabber, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other business? Yes, Jeff?
It's like I wonder if the councillor or anybody has heard of Metrolinx having public hearings on the big changes that are going to happen on Highway 2. I know that there was an invite out there I think it was on the regional councillor's website about when it was happening. But I'm wondering if any correspondence has happened between Metrolinx and staff.
I know Marilyn is mad because it's all in Ward 1 down Kingston Road, and she's crazy. Her and Rob is tripping. We had a big dispute about that on budget. They're dropping some numbers on us as Ajax to pay, but I don't know if Sarah or Mike has anything deeper to add to that, but it's not looking like it's in our favor so far. But do you guys have anything to add to it? I can find out and get those notes into you by email. But if Ms. Moore can pop me an email, what the question is about, and I can get the answers, or if you do have anything to add to that.
The project does promise to turn Pickering Village upside down, and I'm surprised that we haven't heard anything about it yet. Anyway, what do you think, Mike?
Mike?
Yes, so I've been part of the project team for the town, and reviewing the technical reports as they've been coming in. So we have an updated heritage report that I haven't seen yet, but that needs to be reviewed by next Tuesday is their deadline. And I know there is a project website that lists all of the public consultation opportunities. I can send out a link to that by email to the committee. But the latest on the heritage was we knew there were going to be some impacts to heritage buildings, not designated buildings, but buildings that we have on our inventory of non-designated buildings. Yet the type of impacts hadn't yet been classified. So they were telling us because they haven't gotten to the detailed design phase, they don't know exactly what the impacts will look like. So I know at a staff level, I'm just patiently awaiting those reports, and then that's our opportunity to get involved. I keep pushing forward the importance of preserving the heritage along Kingston Road, obviously, but there's nothing detailed enough for us to comment on at this point. So I'll keep waiting, and I promise to update the committee as soon as new information is received.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Stephen?
Just let Mike know that they've got all the concrete pads in at 32, 34, and 36, or 33 and 36 Roosevelt for the heating system. So they're getting started.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, that concludes our meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn? Jeff and seconder, Neil, and all in favor? Paul and Anderson?
Yes.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February the 2nd, 2022. And at this time, it is scheduled as an electronic meeting. And I believe Sarah said she's going to be sending out something with future dates. Okay, so thank you. And that's it.
Mark,